As we return to our top story this hour, the ongoing situation in Gaza, another day of Friday afternoon protests, and the threat from Hamas that they will launch thousands of flaming kites and balloons over the border. Once again, we have in studio our Emily Rose, and Shai Ben-Ari is live for us along the Gaza border. Shai, I understand this is a very tense day, and you're hearing reaction from several Israeli community members and family members who are on the other side of the border dealing with the threat from their side.
Right, Jeff. You know, after several recent rounds of hostilities here between Israel and Gaza, the issue of the worsening humanitarian conditions inside the Strip has again come into focus. There's more and more talk of some possible arrangement being discussed between Israel and Hamas, not necessarily directly. Earlier this week, the Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman even said, though, that any sort of progress on the humanitarian issue inside Gaza has to be conditioned on progress on the issue of certain Israeli hostages still held inside the Strip, including 2 live Israelis, as well as the remains of 2 dead soldiers. One of them is Hadar Golden, who was indeed killed in 2014 back in the last open conflict between Israel and Hamas. His mother, Leah Golden, was here on the border, and we were able to speak to her just a few minutes ago. We asked her about these issues. Let's hear what she had to say.
This is our chance to bring back Hadar, same as President Trump did in North Korea, as a credibility check to the ones that are living just by the humanitarian support of the international community. They should comply the humanitarian values.
All right, Shai, stay with us. Stay right where you are. I want to bring into this conversation Emily. Emily, the Hamas leader, as you mentioned, Ismail Haniyeh, was at the front lines of today's protest, and he said, look, if Jerusalem is not going to take advantage of this opportunity to engage with us, we have no other choice. Explain that's this debate going on about what to do, how to address the crisis in Gaza.
It just really, I think, emphasizes the fact that this entire March of Return has really been seen as a large campaign to bring this issue back to the forefront of the media, the international press, and also has brought it back into the conversation here in Israel to really talk about that humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and they see this as a success on that end. So yes, to that end, he was there to say, we're talking about this issue very strongly, and we've brought it back to the conversation.
All right, Shai, we also want to point out the debate about how to deal with the launchers, the men and women who are launching these flaming balloons and kites into the sky. Gilad Erdan, the public security minister, a few days ago said it's time for snipers to shoot the Palestinians who are preparing and launching these kites. No more warning shots. Just shoot them, shoot to kill. Can you touch on the debate about that?
Right, there is an ongoing debate within the Israeli quarters of power, you could say, about just how much force has to be used against the operators of these kites and balloons. Israel has basically stepped it up a level with these warning shots, which sometimes do some damage. Today, for example, one of the warning shots actually hit a vehicle, a motorcycle, that was not necessarily being manned at the same time. Apparently no injuries or deaths as a result of this warning shot, but there was some material damage. And we also understand that yesterday there was a case of some infrastructure, some of the equipment being used for the balloons that was actually damaged in one of these warning shots. Warning shots in the sense that nobody was hurt or killed as a result of this idea of fire, but we could see a level where it eventually reaches, where people will actually be targeted and there will be casualties as a result of this. I think the hesitancy here in terms of Israel's approach may have to do with the optics. It maybe doesn't look so good for Israel when you're striking people who are essentially flying kites, even though those kites do have some potential lethal abilities. Certainly when you're talking about explosive booby-trapped balloons or flaming kites, they also have the ability to do a lot of material damage as well as personal harm.
Emily, what is the next step for Hamas after this? Many questioning how long this Great March of Return can linger on for. Once the kite issue goes away, what's the next phase here?
I think that's the question that's on the tip of a lot of leaders' tongues, and it's interesting if we saw the progress, because the last round, if you remember, the last round of rocket fire that we saw, the Iron Dome was actually able to target that rocket fire and take out mortars in a way that was very quick.
Within seconds.
Within seconds, and we saw that as an advancement on the progress of that technology. And now we see another technological advance in the ability of those drones to actually anticipate when those kites are about to be sent over and potentially stop that or fire these warning shots before it's actually sent over. So we see the IDF trying to stay ahead of the game on each new tactic, but each time Hamas comes with a new tactic that can develop and be seen as more strategic. So the question here is, will they develop another tactic that we haven't yet seen, or will this potentially be a winding down of the escalation? And I think that remains to be seen.
We'll see how it goes. Shai Ben-Ari is live for us. He'll be monitoring the situation all afternoon long, keeping us posted on the shows and on social media.